All right, then we are going to open up tonight's meeting of the Oakland Mills Community Association Village Board. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We have several special guests with us who we will introduce shortly, but the first thing we need to do to get the meeting going, of course, is to do our opening actions. So first, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the March 23rd board meeting?
So moved.
Okay, Bill makes the motion. Is there a second to that?
I second.
Okay, Lynn seconds. Is there any discussion on those minutes? All in favor of approving? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0, 0. All right, next we need to approve the agenda for for tonight's meeting, the April 13th meeting. And for any residents in attendance who received the agenda we sent out Thursday, between Thursday and now, we did make a change. So we took the discussion of outstanding fiscal 21 budget items off of this agenda. We're going to have a special session on April 21st to discuss those items because we're still waiting for some financial information from CA, which Sandy should receive tomorrow. So we can't really make decisions tonight on information we don't have. So that's why the agenda, some of you may have seen publicly, is different than the agenda you're seeing tonight. With that said, is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Okay, Bill moves. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, Rena seconds. Is there any discussion on tonight's agenda? Okay, all in favor? 6, 0, 0. Okay, we'll move right on.
Jonathan,
Yes.
just for the record, I think it's actually 5, right?
1, 2, 3, 4, no, 6.
Who's 6?
I'm here.
Somebody?
John, Bill, Lynn, Rashida, Rena, Rebecca.
Rebecca, where's Rebecca? I don't see her. Oh, there she is down there. Okay.
I can tell you where she is on my screen. I don't know where she is.
No, I can see her before. So she was here for the minutes too? Because I didn't see her for that. Okay. All right, gotcha.
Yeah, Rebecca's been here since we opened the meeting.
Okay, yeah, I don't know why I couldn't see her. Thank you.
No problem. All right, so we're going to go right into resident remarks. Any resident wishing to speak to the board has 3 minutes. And if you are interested in speaking to us tonight, please either use the hand raise feature in Zoom or turn on your video and just wave at me, and I will call you for remarks in the order that I see your hand go up. I'm not seeing anyone going once, going twice. No remarks? All right, then we will go right into new business. So at a previous board meeting, we were having some discussions about current events in Columbia, some issues around crime. Obviously, there have tragically been some shootings in Columbia, not only in Oakland Mills, but in other parts of Columbia. And then, of course, there was also some conversation about the about drug issues and specifically what might be happening, more recently with certain drugs being out there on the streets that are, laced with perhaps harmful substances that people aren't expecting to receive. So Dr. Jones, our council person, his staff graciously arranged to have the police department, representatives of the police department, as well as representatives of the Howard County Department of Health out to talk to us tonight. The 2 presentations, since everyone was available tonight, we've basically just given the county departments a block on our schedule. It shows for an hour, but basically, 50-50. So to our friends from the police department, you have about a half an hour to talk to us. And then to our friends from the health department, you'll have about a half an hour. We'll start off by introducing from the police department, Sergeant Pullman and Corporal Immer from is it the community policing?
Yep, that's correct.
Community policing.
Yep.
Okay. And when we reached out, I know one of the things we talked about, because we exchanged some emails, was, really just getting a summary from you, like overall on what the crime statistics look like in Columbia, whether, the type of stuff we're seeing in social media is really indicative of what's happening, basically kind of get down to the bottom of what what the crime situation looks like in Columbia, what the police are doing to investigate things that have happened, proactively address things, and also just what we can do as a community, not just to be vigilant, but also just to help, to prevent things from happening. And that might also be where it's a good transition into the health department, since we know that some of many of the issues leading to crime are actually due to other more health related issues than really people just wanting to go out there and commit crimes for no reason. So Sergeant Pullman, Corporal Immer, I'll turn it over to you. If you had any statistics you wanted to present, or anything you wanted to share screens, we can make you co-host. And then if you wouldn't mind leaving some time for question and answer from members of our board and members of the community. And as I said, after that half hour, we'll turn it over to the health department and do something similar.
Of course. Well, first of all, thank you for having us. As I mentioned briefly before, I am Sergeant Pullman. Here I have Corporal Immer with me. We are from the Community Outreach Division, from the Neighborhood Community Resource Officer section. And we're happy to be here with you tonight. And we do have some statistics to share with you. So remind me again, we need to be a co-host if we want to share our screen with you.
I'm not sure. And Sandy, I can't promote them. I think only you can as the host.
Actually, I do see a button that says share screen, so we may be okay. So anyway, yeah, so it has been some concern, I realized, about recent violence in Columbia and in Howard County. And we do have some statistics we want to share with you. There's always that question, is it perception or is it reality? And, we see the news releases and the comments on Facebook, and people talk about, Howard County is the new Baltimore City, and it's not, you're not safe anywhere. And I certainly don't think that's the case. So let me just say that right off the bat. While there have been more shootings recently than we're used to seeing across the nation, we are doing very well, and is a very, very safe county. So you all should feel very safe going about your daily lives here in Howard County, especially in Columbia. Again, as I mentioned, I'm the supervisor of the Community Resource Officer section. Many of you are probably familiar with Corporal Lopez, who you're used to seeing out and about in Oakland Mills. Unfortunately, he has been detailed to another assignment recently for the past couple of months. He is coming back to our section in a few weeks to join us, so we certainly look forward to having him back. While he hasn't been in the Oakland Mills Village Center and surrounding areas, we have had plenty of officers fulfilling his duties and providing police presence throughout the Columbia area, specifically Oakland Mills. So you're certainly not being neglected. With that, Corporal Emmer has worked very hard to put together some statistics and some data to give to you. We will certainly present that, and then we will have plenty of time for a Q&A. We can discuss some of these events in more detail and share with you what we can, and answer any questions you have and see if we can help you in any way. All right. So again, Corporal Emmer, he is assigned to the Wild Lake Village Center, but again, we've had some other community officers detailed to other functions within the police department. So we've all been helping each other out. So that's why him and I are here tonight. Corporal Emmer.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I've never been to a Zoom meeting this large, and I am not technically inclined when it comes to these types of meetings. So I'm going to do my best to relay all the information to you the best as possible. This darn mask isn't helping, but I'll see what I can do for you here. But I'm going to go down. I'm just going to open up my screen here and share it with you, if you don't mind. So let's do basic.
Bear with us a moment while we pull this up.
No. I thought it was the
files, right?
I wanted to do a screen, just the regular screen, right? I'm gonna try that one. All right, can everybody see my screen right now?
There it is.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm gonna go down and open something up here. We're gonna go into, I'm just gonna kind of, for those of you who don't know, I just want you to have a brief overview of what it is we look at here in the Community Outreach Division, specifically the Neighborhood Community Resource Officers. We like to look at statistics for what we call focus calls for service here, which is on the right-hand side of that screen. Hopefully you guys are seeing this, but it starts from assault, breaking and entering, and goes all the way down to weapons violations. So we look at these calls for service.
Corporal Immer, if I can interrupt for a second, right now, what we're seeing on your screen is just the Zoom, website. Yeah.
Okay.
You may need to bring whatever you're displaying to the front, or maybe you're using dual monitors.
We might be using dual monitors. Let me unplug something here really quick.
Okay.
I don't think we need that. This one.
How about now?
Good.
Are we seeing that?
That looks like the right thing.
Yes, we are.
All right.
So this right here is what we look at on a weekly, if not bi-weekly basis. And we get reports for the villages, and they're broken down. This is done by our crime analysis section. So our crime analysis section, sorry, I'm sweating here, is able to take these focus calls for service and put them into whatever they're being called out into each village center. So I put my glasses on here. If we go down to Oakland Mills, and this is for February of 2021, the entire neighborhood of Oakland Mills in that district area had 152 calls for service that involved only 22 of these focus calls for service, which is stuff that we consider to be quality of life issues. This is stuff that affects the community themselves directly, whether it's being a witness, a victim to it, or anything of that sort. Being in business areas where there's loitering, where we have mental illness suspected, a lot of those are at group homes. So we know maybe to focus our attention for mental health issues and bring that to the forefront to our mental health section. So we get all of that generated so we can see what areas of the neighborhoods we need to look at. And if I click through here, are you guys seeing Dorsey Search Village?
Yeah.
All right. It breaks it down into the time of day, Sunday through Saturday, of what time these calls are coming out. So it kind of lets us know, you know what, maybe on Friday from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. or a.m., I need to be focusing some foot patrols in the Dorsey Search Village Center. Okay, so it just shows, it breaks things down and tells us where to focus our attention. So I just want to give you guys a little background on how we operate and this database model that we're using to focus our enforcement in certain areas. And where that leads into now, of course, is where you guys, through emails, have inquired about the recent violent crimes, the statistics that are both in our Southern District here and as they relate to the village centers themselves. So we do have a crime analysis section that we like to reach out to. And they help us generate some numbers for you, but they didn't get all of Southern District for us. So I apologize for that. I'm a little ill-prepared on that one. But if we go, I'm going to share something with you again. I don't know if everybody knows if you have the access to this or not. If you've got a second device there with you that you can look this up on, I'm going to try and share this with you. This would be this one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, can everybody see crime statistics?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so to get there, you would go to the Howard County website and you go into the police department, and there's a section in there for annual reports. And you can click on that and it brings up crime statistics throughout the years, all these reports that are made throughout the year. Some people might know about it, some people don't. But I wanted to bring it up to you guys because as you can see here for homicides, it's not going to let me highlight it. I apologize. There it is. So 2018 was a great year. And this one homicide that happened there was the birth of a child that was just left. So it wasn't an actual like a violent crime. It was a very tragic event from a mother to her child. But the other years, we're on average to 6 to 7 homicides a year. So I've reached out to our violent crime section, and we are experiencing an increase in non-fatal shootings. Yes, we are. And that's what you're seeing in the press releases that come out through Facebook, through the internet, and any other media sources that we have, WBAL and whatnot. But the actual homicides we're at is 3 so far this year. And of those, 2 are solved. And even looking back in 2020, I think we have 2 open cases in 2020 that are still actively being investigated, and the rest have been solved as well. So in the email, there was a concern about what we're doing to investigate them and what we're doing to prevent them. So definitely the investigation, I'd say when you talk about Howard County's violent crime section, I say we're on par to being one of the top, at least in the state, as able to have closures in our homicides. May it take a couple of years? Yeah, it does. But I think we have a very great team working for you guys, both in just our violent crimes, but also as you've seen in our arson unit, our robbery unit, our property crime section, our sex assault and child abuse section is closing cases left and right that oftentimes aren't made notable to the public due to the sensitivity of the issues that are going on. So I'd say our criminal investigations unit, our special investigations section are top notch. So just know that you guys are getting a lot of good quality work out of those detectives. And I say that because I used to be in violent crimes for 5 years. And we've all worked those hard cases, and we've all put in 48-hour days with no sleep, trying to solve these cases the best that we can. So they're doing everything they can. So aside from the homicides, the non-fatal shootings, most other violent crimes and assaults and robberies and burglaries are actually going down. So that's a good thing. So I'll see if I can share this screen with you again to kind of go over, especially in Oakland Mills. I apologize here, but we're going to go back to this crime statistics screen just so you guys have it again. If we go down to can you guys all see this again?
Yeah.
We do.
So if we look at the aggravated assaults and robberies over the years, you can see they're going down. I mean, compared to like 2016, aggravated assaults in 2016 went from 440. In 2020, they're gradually going down to 192 in 2020. So we're seeing a significant decrease in aggravated assaults, which include assaults with a bat, assaults with a knife, assaults with a car, anything that's serious in nature that isn't a homicide and doesn't include a shooting, or does include a shooting as well, okay? So I wanted to bring those out to you. Our other crimes are significantly going down as well. Those are for Part 1 offenses, which are tracked by UCR data, which is the FBI's way of tracking by state what is their Part 1 crimes and Part 2 offenses. So if we go down, You also see your part 2 offenses, which are ones that are quality of life issues. They do affect the community, most definitely. But you'll see that the numbers are also going down. Again, 2016 to 2020, Howard County is going down in their crime rates. So if anybody feels like there's a lot of attention being brought right now, I agree with you, there is, but it is because so much has happened in a short amount of time. Whereas prior years, things have kind of spanned out. So the numbers we are seeing for homicides, let me go up. Oops. In the 2016 to 2020 might have been over a longer period of time. So we may be at 3 homicides, and I think we're at, what did I say, six non-fatal shootings for 2021. It seems like a lot. It has just happened all at once, and we hope that it slows down. I mean, that's all we can do is hope. But to answer the other question that was in the email, let me go back here to, should I go to the?
Just to add on to what Corporal Emmer is saying here, while we were at 3 homicides for the year, and while, yes, if we maintain that, it would be higher than the year has passed, we certainly don't want to jump to any conclusions and say that pattern, you can minimize that, yeah. We don't want to, foreshadow here and say that we're going to continue at this rate. Obviously, we hope that's not the case. So I think, we kind of have to wait till the year's out to give a full picture and a full comparison and a larger sample size. With that being said, yes, we are, at this time last year, we are a little higher than we would like to be.
All right. Is everybody seeing me trying to open a file here? Or are you still stuck on the crime statistics?
We're still on the crime statistics.
Okay.
I got that.
So stop.
Minimize that one.
Minimize this.
Minimize.
The screen sharing. Let me get out of here. All right, so I apologize. Let me go back. We did have our record section and crime analysis center section put together at least 2019 to 2021 year to date, and break those statistics down into actual village centers. So let me see if I can open this, and then just open it twice. And then I'm going to minimize this, share screen, and see if I can come to I'll explore. Okay. Y'all see me trying to select a file now?
We see it now, yes.
Okay, good deal. Hopefully it pulls up. For some reason it's not. Would it be under a different sheet? This is the part where I say this was just working a minute ago. Now it is not. But let me just go over. I don't know why that's not opening.
Try the second.
All right, are you guys seeing us now?
Yes, we see you again.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
But basically, to break it down for Oakland Mills, if we look at just robberies alone, and I hate to do this verbally, I'm a visual guy, and I'd like to show you. Okay, I'd like to show you visually. Sergeant Pullman's going to work on that. But let's say for Oakland Mills, in 2019 there were 10 reported robberies in Oakland Mills. To date, in 2021, over 4 months, there are zero robberies. For assaults in 2019, there were 103 in the Oakland Mills area. 2020, 103 went down to 71. And for 2021, we're at 18 so far. So the numbers are going down. If we look at breaking and enterings, burglaries, in 2019, there were 11. In 2020, it went down to 8. And so far till April of this year, we're at 2. So again, going down. Our CDS violations, our drug violations, with the decriminalization of marijuana, you're going to see the significant drop in our CDS violations. So for Oakland Mills, the drug violations in 2019 was 48. In 2020, it dropped down to 46. And so far to date, we're at 3. So although there wasn't that big of a drop between 2019 and 2020, with the decriminalization of marijuana, some of these stats can come from an officer pulling a car over, detecting the odor of marijuana, or requesting a canine to come and scan the car. And hopefully you guys are seeing the screen now. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
We see it
Okay.
now.
So this is you guys in the center here, the numbers I'm shouting out to you. And I'm focusing on the CDS violations right now. But if we get a chance to get into a car through probable cause, either by the odor of marijuana or by using a canine to get into the car, if we get into the car because there's probable cause to get us in there and there's nothing found, because we searched the car, we have to document it. Because we used a canine, we have to document it. Because we got in the car, because it was a marijuana or drug-related incident, we have to document it as a CDS violation. So that's why some of those numbers aren't varying, because although marijuana has been decriminalized, doesn't mean they don't have other stuff in their car. So if we smell marijuana coming from a car, are we still going to search it? Yeah, they might have more than 10 grams in there. They might have other stuff in there, cocaine, heroin, the killer fentanyl that's going around, that has been going around for quite some time. I heard you guys mentioning that earlier, and we'll let the health department maybe dive further into that. I definitely did not get the stats on that, so I apologize. But this screen here kind of gives you an idea of the breakdown of our focus calls for service in the Oakland Mills area as it pertains to you guys. So what's, part of the email, I keep looking over it because I got some highlighted parts on it about what we're doing as a police department to prevent this. As it relates to homicide, as it relates to non-fatal shootings, we can prevent some things, but when there is a dispute going on, and I'm going to get a little bit into what some of these cases are about, I'm not talking about them, but I'm saying if there's a dispute from one man to another man, or one female to another female, it's very hard to prevent that from happening when they have a dispute and something happens inside their home, or something happens out on an argument on a footpath. We are out there on our bikes and on our ATVs. We're patrolling. It's hard to be everywhere at once. So there is, and you'll see it later on probably, and I can't release too much right now about what the department is doing, but there is going to be some focused enforcement on repeat offenders in the community who have both drug and violent backgrounds. Not necessarily focusing directly on them, but just keeping a watchful eye out on what's going on with them. Intelligence gathering and sharing from one unit to another is key as well. That includes the neighborhood community resource officers who are out there having an interaction with everybody on the pathways or at the village centers, standing out front of the Sam Smart on Robert Oliver, or out in that little intersection behind the Sam Smart and the footpaths back there. I've had people say, we haven't seen you in a while. And I'm like, well, you must have walked by at the wrong time, because we are definitely out there.
And just to touch on what Corporal Emmer was saying, sometimes people say, oh, we haven't seen the police out there as much, or, we only see them drive by every once and again. Well, like he was saying, we're deploying a variety of resources to try to combat this recent uptick in violent crime, specifically these shootings. So what exactly are we doing? What does that mean? Well, we're deploying officers in plain clothes. We're deploying officers in unmarked cars. We're conducting surveillance operations. So a lot of the times you might not actually see us, but rest assured there are officers out there doing their job and gathering intelligence and conducting, lengthy criminal investigations to try to get some of these violent criminals apprehended and try to get them, from repeating these crimes. So we are out there. You just don't always see us. We've given you a lot so far and we're not done, but does anyone have any questions kind of as we're going here before we continue?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I had a question. How much of the downtick in crimes such as burglary and graffiti and all of those, not the violent crimes, but the not so violent crimes, how much of that do you think in this past year is due to COVID and the COVID restrictions? So I was looking at, for example, the drunk driving arrests. So if people aren't driving their cars, they're not going out, then you're not going to have, how much of that have you kind of factored that into it when you're feeling good about the downtick, or do you think that is not such an issue? Isn't a contributing factor?
Well, that's a great point, and thanks for the question. And I certainly think it is a factor. It's difficult to quantify how much of a factor it may be. Something like the drunk driving, I think there's other variables that go into that in terms of Uber and Lyft and rideshare and things like that, where people are making smarter choices, which is great. There's also another way of looking at things is COVID has created some issues where people are getting cooped up, for lack of a better term, and they're going out and they're doing things they normally wouldn't have done, or they've lost their job and they need to find other ways to make money, or they know certain stores aren't open, which makes maybe a particular business more vulnerable because no one's there to watch it or such. So, yes, it's a factor. How much of it, I don't know, but yes, I do think that is something that's a great point and something to take into account. Corporal, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think when, as far as DUIs and traffic stops and all of that, most definitely, I believe it's a factor. I think at the beginning of COVID, our enforcement, we were out, but to make the public feel a little more safe, I think the scare of making traffic stops in the beginning might have skewed those numbers maybe just a little bit. But we are definitely, after that scare went by, we did our safety analysis on what we were doing and guidelines with the governor. I mean, keeping our masks on, getting the gloves. We started a transport van process where arrestees were taken in the back of prisoner vans instead of back of the officers' vans. We're looking to keep everybody safe at first, and we still are, but we're a little more focused on our enforcement efforts here. So I think there was probably from March of last year till just the beginning of summer, there was a little bit of probably a lack of an enforcement right there. All right, so that would skew our numbers just a little bit. But I think from then on, early summer all the way to now, I know there's officers out there making traffic stops every day. We still have DUI details that we're working. We just got done working a distracted driving detail last week. So we are out. I don't want that to affect you guys or think the enforcement's not going in, because we are still at it big time. Definitely from the start of the summer last year, we're back into it. So to answer your question about that, yes, I think it's skewed it just a little bit in the beginning. But as far as violent crimes and homicides and all of that, my experience is, if somebody gets it in their mind that they're going to do a violent crime or they're going to do a homicide, and they have their targeted subject, COVID probably isn't going to stop that. And I don't think it's playing any any role in the decrease of violent crimes or aggravated assaults that we're having in Howard County and Oakland Mills specifically. So I think the decrease in the violent and the stats there are true numbers as it relates to that.
Thank you.
I think, like Courtney said, yes, that is a factor, and I agree. I think with a fairly significant decrease, I think it's just a small factor, and I think a lot of it is contributed to kind of how we hold ourselves here as a police department, have high expectations, and how we train our officers, and how we're constantly trying to improve and form community relationships in order to work with the community to solve these problems in the area. So I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning that there was a lack of enforcement. I was thinking more that people weren't feeling comfortable about going out and messing around with
Sure.
things. That's what I was.
Sure.
Yeah.
Certainly a factor. Certainly unprecedented times for sure. Luckily, things are getting better. So, yeah. Anyone else?
I have one.
Sure, Sandy.
We've written to the county executive. I mean, this was like last summer in county council's office, our concern about all of the drag racing that's going on. I mean, it just seems that's rampant, and maybe like the drunken driving is down, but I think that the reckless driving and that drag racing with hundreds of cars, what is going on with that? Because it's all around our neighborhood.
Yeah, it's you guys and people off of Cradle Rock Way and Homespun and Oakland Mills Road. We're dealing with, we've got a detail going on over off of Cradle Rock Way here. Foreseeably for the next 3 weeks. We're going to be over there in heavy enforcement over there as well. And the drag racing, to be honest with you, I don't know what's up with that. I think people love modifying their cars if they're taking their stimulus checks and putting those mufflers on and getting out there and doing that. But you guys are not the only ones noticing that and seeing that. We're definitely getting complaints in other neighborhoods, even up in Elk Ridge as well. So yes, that is a topic amongst many communities, and that as they come in, we're putting details out on all of those the best that we can.
Okay.
I have a follow-up question to that, and then I saw Bill, and then we'll go to Ginny. I was actually corresponding with the chair of the Owen Brown board, our neighboring village to the south, and we were kind of talking back and forth, and we don't know. We were just wondering, how much of that is do you know how much of that is actual drag racing, and how much of it is people modifying their exhaust so the car sounds a lot faster than it's really going?
So just to touch on that, that we have officers that are trying to get, you have these people that are in these car club or these groups where they all soup up their car and they have these meets and they correspond on social media and Instagram. So what we're trying to do is kind of gather that intel, and we have officers that join that group to try to figure out where they're going. Is either last Friday or the Friday before, I know there were hundreds of people that were going to meet up at the movie theater off Snow and River. So we were trying to block the entrances so they could not come in there and congregate and do their donuts and spin their cars around, do what they do with their loud exhaust. So a lot of that is trying to get the intelligence before, because when you get these large groups, it's hard because I think it was maybe 6 months ago, one of our officers was surrounded, and I think his car was damaged by a bunch of officers. So it certainly presents some challenges when you have hundreds of people and 10 or so officers. With that, Jonathan, I think it's I don't believe it's necessarily like full draggers. I think a lot of it is these people or these kids sometimes just get these exhausts so it sounds louder. You said you were talking to your a co-chair in Owen Brown. There's one culprit over there. I know we've been meeting with the board a little bit and talking to them, and they provide us with some tag numbers. And is either that day or the day after, Officer Frazee, one of our officers, was able to get that car stopped and actually issue 2 citations to one of the main guys that is driving around Cradle Rock Way with his loud muffler. So if you guys know specific offenders that have these cars or have a tag number, sometimes we can just go knock on the door and talk to them. If we can't catch them out there on the road, we can do the best we can. But so if you have any information you can provide to us to help us remedy the problem, that's always appreciated. So I don't necessarily think it's, I mean, maybe there are drag racing in some places I haven't seen, but I think a lot of it is cars just driving around with loud mufflers, and it's the perception these people must be racing, where in fact they just have a loud muffler.
Yeah, and neither he nor I had specific information. We were both just kind of noting from walking around that we hear a lot of very loud cars, but we don't actually see them moving that fast. It's, you know, it's all show and no go.
Yeah.
They're loud, all right.
And it's obnoxious. It's annoying. Yeah. And like I said, it's an issue over in Cradle Rock we're dealing with and trying to, well, like I said, we got one of the kids and we talked to him and wrote him a couple of tickets. So hopefully that stops. But, you know, we'll do what we can. Like I said, we try to get them before they get in these large numbers by gathering intelligence from social media sites and such. But if you have specific tag numbers or a specific car, just provide it to us and we'll do the best we can to catch them.
Thanks. Okay, sorry, Bill, and then I think Ginny had a hand up.
Officers, real quick, on the county interactive map, data.howardcountymd.gov, in the interactive map itself, you can see police beats, you can see police quadrants, etc. And I focused on quadrants. Then on that interactive map menu, it says maps and data, clicked on that, and then went down to the crime statistics map, clicked on that, and I get very similar data to what you were showing by quadrant. Is there a way to get it broken down with more detail, in our case, by village?
So not necessarily by village per se. I know you can type in like an address. And I think what you may be saying is an area. I don't know if it's quadrant up, but it highlights a particular area and it'll give you that statistical data. Yep. But again, though, you know, we can have as many meetings as you want and provide you as much data as you want for your specific village center. And again, Corporal Lopez is coming back in 2 weeks, but even in the meantime, if you need data for specific Oakland Mills, it's not hard for us to pull that up and we can relay that to you.
Great,
So,
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Our records section prepares that for us, so they are safe to be released to the public. So anytime you guys need something, let us know. Miss Jenny? I think
you're muted, Miss Jenny. You're muted.
Sorry about that. I know the board's familiar with this, but there's a situation on, and the police are also on 175 near the Thunder Hill Road area where there's a lot of this happening. And I want to congratulate you. The resident got the license plate of one of the cars that's a frequent offender. One of your guys actually went to the home and not only talked to him, but you talked to the mother. And that really did it, where this kid is no longer a problem, apparently.
Good.
Congratulations. However, the other side is, since it's getting to be warmer and it's starting to build up again, one of the suggestions some people had, and I told them to talk to the police first, was basically to get a group together that would kind of circle the area, do 175 to Thunder Hill to Tamar, et cetera, because that's where the problem is here. But I asked them to they should talk to Corporal Lopez first. So it would be somebody else they should talk to before. I don't want them getting in any trouble, especially when I had heard from someone about what had happened to a police officer on near Cradle Rock on Broken Land Parkway. I mean, if they're going to surround a police car, I don't want a bunch of citizens going out there doing this and winding up in trouble. The other thing was they'd been talking about, why can't we do cameras in a certain part where where the action's taking place, like the entrance to the Smith Farm, et cetera, post cameras, speed things, something like that. So you can get the pictures yourself. Is there any way of doing anything like that?
So to start out, your first mention of you all driving around and trying to, I guess, catch these.
Me. I'm not driving.
Well, that's great because I don't recommend it at all. It's just not worth it. It's too dangerous. We don't know if these people have weapons. We don't know if they're going to be confrontational. Leave that to us. It's certainly not where I know it's annoying and I know, it's a nuisance and all that. But yeah, just leave that to us. What was the second part I'm getting on?
Well, cameras.
Oh, cameras. So
Something where you could actually capture the license plates
what-
and the sound and the speed,
So as you can imagine, we get a lot of speeding complaints and a lot of complaints about these noise. And what we usually do is we put out do like some type of speed survey where it's a sign that captures your speed as you go by, and we obtain data. And then if it meets a certain threshold, we then put that road on what we call one of our radar roads, where it's dedicated time by specific officers to conduct enforcement. Because a lot of the times you'll get someone that will call in. I'm certainly not saying this is what you're doing, but someone will call in and be like, "Oh, there's people speeding on Little Patuxent Parkway all the time." And if we put speed enforcement out every time someone called that, we would be out of officers. So we have to kind of determine what is a true problem or what is a perception of a car driving by fast periodically. And that's what we're doing on Cradle Rock right now with this issue. We have, we did a speed study in November, and actually it met the criteria. We made it what they call a radar road, and we had our traffic enforcement section conduct enforcement along with other officers. And then now it's come back. This problem has come back. So we have officers out there several times a week for several hours out there now, and we're also collecting additional data. So if you have a certain roadway that you think may be an area, we can certainly look more into it. And as time allows and as we have the resources, we can potentially do a speed survey to determine if a certain amount of vehicles are going over the speed limit, by however many miles per hour, to determine if we're going to make that road a radar road and how many resources we have available to dedicate to that. So, yep, I hope that helps.
Okay, I know we're at about the end of the allotted time and want to move to the health department. Were there any, Lynn, you have a last question?
I just have a last one, and that is that I've been, very, very much in spending time looking at the crime reports and seeing what kind of the patterns are, trying to figure it out for myself. And I've noticed that in the past couple of weeks, there have been carjackings over in Town Center Road, Town Center Boulevard. And I made me think, I'm wondering how much of the crime, and I know there's no way necessarily until you apprehend people, but how much of the crime that we're seeing here in Columbia or in Howard County in general do you think is spillover from surrounding counties? Are people, especially with like a carjacking, is it something where someone is coming in from outside of the county?
So I have, when I was looking at a lot of the news releases, and there, being a former detective, I get updates on cases that are coming through that our detectives are handling. A lot of offenders are from different jurisdictions, surrounding jurisdictions that might come up here. And they might just be up here transient. They might be homeless. They might have a substance abuse issue. But I can guarantee you 100% that if we did the same thing and looked at the stats down in, let's say, Anne Arundel County or PG County, they'd have bursts of people that might come from Howard County or might claim to reside here. So it's not, you got to look at like the whole state, and every county and their surrounding jurisdictions. They're going to have an interlapping crime stats and crime data where suspects are from the neighboring county and they come over. But I have to admit, like throughout the years that I've been on this department, a lot of our, the violent crimes, the carjackings, as you're saying, are either younger kids that are from the area right around where the carjacking occurs, or they are from another jurisdiction and they're transient and they're just living life hour by hour. You know what I mean? So it comes and goes as whether they're locals or if they're transients or from another jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you.
Did that answer it?
Yeah, definitely. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, Corporal Immer, Sergeant Pullman, I'd like to thank you very much for coming out. And certainly we would welcome further discussions with you if if we want to follow up in the future, or if there's anything you want to come in and present to us. And
Sure.
really appreciate you taking the time with us. And really, I appreciate you, sort of busting some of the, I think, social media myths that are out there.
Yeah.
We're sensitive to that here in Oakland Mills. And I think if you look at social media, Columbia has kind of taken a beating lately on social media. And quite frankly, the stats you presented don't surprise me. I mean, I personally feel safe anywhere in Oakland Mills, anywhere in Columbia. I walk the whole Stevens Forest Road corridor just about every day, and really have no concern. So I think the stats you showed, basically support that. Any violent incident is extremely unfortunate, and it's a shame that anyone resorts to that. But I mean, clearly that's not, that's not the story of crime in Columbia, even though that's what's hitting the news.
I agree.
Cool.
And if I can make just one recommendation for everybody here, the whole saying in see something, say something, it's 100% accurate. We solve a lot of crimes just based on community observations. If anybody out there can invest in a ring for your front doorbell or something like that, and then you can enroll that ring into the Howard County Police Department's ring account. So if a violent crime does happen, a carjacking does happen, or something is going on your street, such as motor vehicle violations, we've had those captured on ring cameras and sent to us. So it helps us investigate those further. So I just wanted to put that out there for you guys.
Thank you.
Real quick, just to piggyback, like you said, you guys are our eyes and ears in the community. We need your help. We can't do this alone. There's a lot more of you out there than there is of us here in uniform. So please don't hesitate to share information with us. Bill, you're talking about the statistics. If just a few of you want to have a small meeting to get together or talk about whatever, it doesn't have to be anything huge and formal. We're here to help out in any way we can. So again, it doesn't have to be your monthly meeting or whatever. Just reach out and we'll provide you whatever we need, and we're happy to talk to you and share information. So let's continue to keep the communication lines open, and we'll have Corporal Lopez back here in a couple of weeks. Thanks for having us tonight, and we hope you all stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks very much. You
Take
too.
care.
Thank you.
Okay, and now it's my pleasure to introduce Justine Muyu from the Howard County Department of Health. And as I mentioned earlier, when we were having previous meetings, we were having some discussions about both crime and also health and safety issues. So I don't know how much you have prepared. Obviously, one of the topics we had discussed in a previous meeting and we were interested in was the fentanyl issue and other drug use issues. And I think another one that will be interesting for discussion, I mean, just generally, but especially given all that's been happening over the past year, are any trends you're seeing in mental health issues and any resources that you can suggest to the community if we know someone or see someone who appears to be having a mental health or drug issue.
Sure. Well, I want to say good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Justine Muyu. I'm actually from the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program. That is a new initiative through the health department to meet some of those unmet behavioral health needs that kind of feed criminal activity, especially related to substance use disorders. So I'm glad that the police were here, and it is actually under the community division that this program works in tandem with at the health department. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit tonight about substance use in general in Howard County and some local resources that might be helpful for you and your friends and family. And I am going to go ahead and share my screen. And just let me know if you have any trouble with my audio. It's something I'm working on in this new world. So as you know, I am Justine Muyu. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor with the health department, and I work with the law enforcement assisted diversion program that is in development. But for tonight's purpose, we're going to be talking about current alcohol and drug trends. I'd like to kind of provide you with some information around substance use disorder and how it's really a condition that's best understood as a dynamic and very complicated condition that is best treated with an intersectional approach from prevention, primary prevention, to a healthcare response, to also that public safety response with law enforcement, and then to help you identify some local resources for prevention, harm reduction, and treatment. So substance use and addiction terms, I think that it's important to understand a little bit about what we're talking about. The science behind addiction research has really changed. And its perception, substance use disorder, and its perception and understanding has really evolved. Addiction and drug abuse are kind of dated terms that we don't usually use very much anymore in the medical community. It's referred to as having a substance use disorder, and it's really categorized based on severity, if it's a mild, moderate, or severe disorder. And that's based on impairment in functioning and, some biological changes in the brain that occur as a result of drug use. So an example of like a clinical diagnosis might be opiate use disorder, severe. Dependence on a drug is really the manifestation of the physical symptoms, where you see someone's tolerance increase, where they need more and more of the drug or alcohol in order to achieve the same effects. And they also experience the physical phenomenon of withdrawal. Their bodies actually become physically dependent on it. And just to talk more broadly about prevalence, about 1 in 12 adults in the United States are diagnosed with a substance use disorder, and about 1 in 5 have a mental health disorder. Oftentimes, these disorders are co-occurring, which means the individual has a substance use disorder and a mental health disorder. They're really difficult to untangle. So I do want to talk a little bit about language and stigma. Behavioral health is an umbrella term that's used to discuss mental health issues and substance use issues. Substance use is not a moral failure, and it's a really complex condition that needs, that comprehensive response that I talked about. So as our language changes, we change the stigma around it, from an individual being a morally flawed person to a person who needs support and assistance and treatment due to their medical condition. So you want to really pay attention to your language when discussing people with substance use disorders, and notice if the term kind of addict or dirty or clean comes up. Those types of labels aren't really that helpful in getting someone treatment or supporting them to change. So substance use has really increased nationally and locally since the start of the pandemic. I mean, I'm sure everybody here has seen the stats that like alcohol sales in the state of Maryland went up like 54% within the first 2 weeks of lockdown. Back in the beginning of March. And so I put alcohol on here because it is a fatal substance. Like if misused, it's deadly, and it's really, really common. So we have the most prevalent substances that are fatal are alcohol, stimulants, opiates, and then the other ones that are often used that are not fatal frequently are marijuana and hallucinogens. And I say like they're not fatal, like they're not directly fatal, but like, you can have things like car accidents or, household incidents that might be related to marijuana use or hallucinogens. But the Center for Disease Control reported you know, that a 16.9% increase nationally in fatalities from all types of drugs, you know, May 2019 through May 2020. So, you know, it is a deadly situation right now. Most fatal substances are alcohol, fentanyl, and a new prescription drug called xylazine, excuse me. It's actually a large animal tranquilizer that has been found to be laced in things like cocaine and heroin. So just to reiterate that alcohol is still a deadly substance. You know, it needs to be used responsibly. More than 95,000 people die from excess alcohol use every year, and that's about 261 deaths per day. I want to talk a little bit about prescription drugs because those are some of the most deadly drugs out there, and a lot of people don't even realize that what they have in their medicine cabinet could be potentially fatal for a nephew, a grandson, a granddaughter, you know, a daughter that might have a substance use problem. So these are some of the generic names and the brand names for prescription opioids that really do need to be, you know, under close watch and that have the potential to be habit forming. I'm sorry that this slide is so funky looking, but I was trying to fit as much on here as possible because this is for Maryland from 2007 to 2019. The green is fentanyl, which is the substance, the synthetic opioid that you mentioned earlier. It is cut, or it's used to cut heroin. It's used to cut, now some people prefer it, but it is like playing Russian roulette, you know, if you get like a mix. And then you also have heroin is responsible for fatal overdoses, as well as I did want to include that alcohol is the third highest fatality. So in Howard County, the total overdoses by opioids in particular, right now we're at 2. That's the yellow in the year to date for people who have died. For total number of overdoses is 25. And this data is recent as of March 28th of this year. The location of the opioid overdoses is broken down on this slide by zip code. So Columbia has 3 different zip codes, and there have been 3 total overdoses in Columbia proper. The 2 fatal ones occurred in Elkridge. The breakdown of ages who are having overdoses is distributed on this slide. And you can see that one youth, you know, very young adult youth died, and another individual who was middle-aged died. And that the highest number of overdoses that are non-fatal are between people who are aged 30 to 39. So I just wanted to give you all and walk through some of the resources that are available in the community. This is a comprehensive list of drugs that you can kind of go to, and it'll give you the like sort of the common name, and then like what some of the side effects are. And so that's that. It just gives you a great fact sheet, and that's through the Department of Justice Drug Enforcement. And I'm going to walk you through just a couple more, because this one's really handy if you want to kind of enroll in a class that's geared towards prevention. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with HC Drug Free, but it is a really great program. They have a number of different resources for parents and for teens and youth, and on their calendar they have an upcoming event that's a parent training that you can register for. They're free. They are all online right now. It's in May, and it is geared towards helping parents guide their children to make good choices around drugs and alcohol. So it's really about, you know, talking to your kids about drugs and alcohol, talking to them about the dangers, but also helping them understand how to say no. The average age of use for youth is 12. Okay, so we're talking like it's really young, right? So you think it's, and the time period in a person's life when it sort of, it's not like, I don't want to say make or break, because it's not, I don't want to be pessimistic, but a critical period in an individual's development and their drug use, the trajectory of their drug use is around the age of 16. So the later you wait to try or experiment, the less likely it, you know, the less harmful and the less likely it is for you to like start to rack up things like a criminal history and charges, as well as have like really negative consequences with your education. So that's a great class. At the health department, we offer Narcan training, which is to prevent overdose. It is free. It is great to have. You get a wonderful little kit that includes Narcan, as well as a packet on how to dispose of your prescription drugs. So I would really recommend that everybody in the community take this training. You never know when you're going to be somewhere that, you know, you might be able to prevent an overdose. And Maryland has a Good Samaritan law that protects you when you intervene in this capacity. And so I can email this to Jonathan and Sandy so that they can send to the group the resources and how to get, you know, connected. So you register for the training online, and then the actual physical training is done online, and then they mail you a kit. And in that kit, if you request it, and this is a really big, important kind of key piece of something we called harm reduction, is in the kit, we'll have some fentanyl test strips, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when I talk about our harm reduction services. So there's the Narcan training that does include the fentanyl test strips. Harm reduction services at the Howard County Health Department do include a syringe services program where people are given, you know, clean syringes, as well as provided with safe sex supplies. They're given wound care and the fentanyl test strips. They also have access to peer recovery support. And those are people that have lived experience in recovery with drug use, and then they can be referred to treatment. And then there are just a couple other ways that you can go about getting actual treatment for drug issues and mental health issues. You can contact your insurance provider. You can also, if you don't have insurance, you can contact the behavioral health navigator at the Howard County Health Department, and the number's on the screen, and they can support you in linking to a provider that has specialties in the areas that you might need services. And then there's also the directory that's right on the county's website, where it kind of shows you all of the different providers in the area and what they are, what they specialize in. And it's broken down into adults and youth. Okay. And so just to like kind of recap, you know, we talked a little bit about some current trends for alcohol and drug use. I really hope that I stress that substance use disorder is a comprehensive condition, and that it's not a moral failure, and that it really, you know, requires a multifaceted approach that's geared towards prevention, healthcare, and public safety. And then I will forward those resources on to Sandy and Jonathan so that they can, you know, give out to the group. Does anybody have any questions?
Justine, thank you very much. I have a quick question.
Mhm.
I'm interested in the Narcan training, and
Mhm.
kind of as a follow-on to that, I've noticed that in some of our school buildings, there are Narcan kits like right
Mhm.
in the same location as the AEDs.
AEDs. Mhm.
Is there a county program, like if we wanted them in our facilities, for example, and wanted to train our staff, does the county provide the supplies or just provide the training?
Oh, they provide the supplies. You get like a Narcan kit. Every individual gets a Narcan kit. I will have to follow up with the Narcan coordinator regarding the installation of specific like kits that
Okay.
go next to the AEDs. I have seen those, and I will email her and copy you on that.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I understood the part about going as an individual, but like if
Mhm.
an organization wanted it for their building, is there a way of arranging that?
I'll follow up. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay,
you.
thank you.
This was great. Are you gonna send me your presentation and then we can share it? Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
That'd be
no
great.
problem.
Thank you.
Mhm. I think it's really about, connecting people to the resources and sort of trying to minimize the stigma. I will do a shameless plug for another organization called On Our Own of Maryland. They have an incredible program that offers a free anti-stigma training around, language with mental health and substance use. There's one that's like 30 minutes that you can do on your phone while you're waiting in line at, whatever your favorite drive-through is during COVID. And then like there's another one that you can do that's more comprehensive, that's like 2 hours that they offer to organizations. And I will include that on the resource list that I send Jonathan and Sandy for your own follow-up.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all
Thanks.
very much for your time. It was nice
It was great. Thank you very much.
to meet
Yes.
you, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very, very much.
too.
And
Thank
we're
you.
looking forward to getting copies of the presentation. We'll distribute them. And thank you especially for stressing, multiple times about the stigmatism, because I mean, personally, I think that's the worst part, right? I think there are a lot of people out there who could be helped if they weren't stigmatized in the way they often are. So thank you for that.
In the On Our Own training, it really talks about how stigma is fatal in and of itself. I mean, and it's not easy. Drug use, loving someone who's addicted, it's very hard. It is difficult to be compassionate with someone who is stealing from you. Okay. At the same time, it really does require multiple layers of intervention. Jenny, did you have a comment or question?
Yeah, actually, I have a question based on what you were just saying. Years ago, I used to work with On Our Own and also AMI and NAMI and all those groups. But I'm wondering, they had a place in Howard County, and this was quite a while ago, where people On Our Own did, where people could just drop in and feel comfortable, feel safe, and
They
also.
still do.
Okay, great, good.
It's like right across the street from the health department.
Okay.
And it's sort of in one of the office developments, and that, it's still open during COVID. It's operating. They are operating at a reduced capacity. They offer Zoom group meetings. So I can also write that down on the resource. But yeah, On Our Own is a wonderful resource that has satellite locations in many different places throughout Maryland.
Okay, I'm glad to hear they still have it. Thank you.
One more thing quickly.
Of course.
Can you tell us what your connection is with the police?
Sure. So I work with I'm with the police in developing a program called Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion in Howard County. So basically what will eventually happen is that when the police, the community police that you all just met, meet someone that might be better served through social services, through case management. They then go ahead and refer them to the lead program through the health department. Then the lead program will provide the case management services, and that individual will not get charged. It is a pre-booking diversion, because we know that for low-level offenses, public safety, law enforcement responses, the criminal justice cycle kind of repeats itself, right? You get a charge, then you can't get a job. Then you can't get a job, then you're homeless, then you get another loitering charge, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The police do a fantastic job for those really intense, violent crimes, that they were speaking about their different levels of enforcement on prior to, my presentation. But for the majority of crimes that are citations or nuisance or drug related, or like low level drug related, I'm not talking dealers don't get this option, okay? Like this is for like people who are kind of caught in the act of buying or selling drugs to support their own habit. They then get the opportunity to get treatment, to get referred to some job training, to get referred to some housing supports, and they're followed by a case manager. And that is that harm reduction framework where we're offering, people support instead of involving them in the criminal justice cycle. So that is, I will come back to you when that program is up and running. At this point, it's in development, and we're very excited about it.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Justine. And we're looking forward to your material, and we will get it out there to the community as well.
Okay, great. Have a good evening. Have a good remainder of your meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Okay, we're going to move on to the next item of new business, which Ginny requested. And actually, Ginny, just for clarification, I know we had this conversation, and in the agenda, it says CARES funding, but it's Ginny left. Ginny?
Talk to the seat.
I'm talking. I toggled back from the agenda, and I'm talking to Ginny, and she's not there. She is. Ginny.
I didn't think you wanted to listen to the Orioles as well.
No, because I think they're losing again, so I don't want to hear it. No, Ginny, what I was saying was I know we had this conversation, and I think in the agenda it says CARES funding, but isn't it actually the new bill, the American Rescue Plan? That
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It's what's known as also the Biden bill.
Okay.
And should I start now, Jonathan?
Yes. We were on to you. I was calling your item on the agenda, and I was on another screen and didn't see you and stepped away.
No, I was trying to get Chuck to turn that down. Okay. Basically, what we understand, and those representing the county, if there's any misunderstanding, let us know. But what we're hearing is the county will probably receive $63 million from the funding, and CA is not eligible to receive any money because we have too many employees. The good news is, we went from 1,064 employees to 240. We're now back up, and when you go over 500, we're not eligible. So that's the issue. So in terms of preparing the CA budget for the last couple of years, my interest and that of my colleagues, a lot of my colleagues, is basically what should services and facilities should CA actually be providing using lean money or money from memberships, et cetera. And what should we say enough is enough? It's really a county program. We are no longer going to do that. And we're going to say to the county, we hope you will do this if it's really a worthwhile service. And then the third is where can we get partnerships or funding from county, state, federal grants, or other types of partnerships that'll help us continue to provide that services or facilities, but not have the whole financial burden on CA lien payers. So that's basically been the approach. So just to give you a couple of things here, an example of where we have cuts. the volunteer center was really serving Howard County. And the Columbia Community Exchange, the Time Bank, same thing. At one point, there was some money, I think it was passed through from some source that the county gave to this funding. But when that source dried up and the county just didn't, there was no funding from the county, it was strictly CA had to fund the whole thing. I complained at that time during the budget process that this was a service that was benefiting everybody in Howard County, and I did not understand why we were paying the full freight. So that's been cut. The eight pools, the county is providing money for this type of service outside. We're simply saying, could you look at helping us open the 8 remaining pools? And that would be $508,000. I'm going to go through this kind of fast. You can look at it more. I sent it to you and you can look at it more and give me a call later or something. The overpasses. When I first got on the board, I complained that it was going to cost a couple of $100,000 to repair an overpass. And I said, why are we in the overpass business? That's a safety issue. Why did CA ever build overpasses? Well, you know, the story is when you're building Columbia and Rouse wanted to gain things from the county commissioners, they did certain things like a firehouse and a library in Wild Lake and overpasses and other things that I think you could really argue is not, CA shouldn't be in that business. So we've just taken a hard stand on that. And we're telling the county that 3 overpasses that serve mainly nearby elementary schools will no longer, we will no longer maintain them. And when they are deemed unsafe, we will close off all access ultimately and demolish them. So we're negotiating with the county. If you really think these are needed, because you have crosswalks, and in some cases you have crossing guards, but if you think they're really needed, then let's work together and you take them over, you know, in a disciplined way. The other thing that I think many of you may have spotted as you drive Broken Land Parkway, dead trees for several miles in the center median and alongside Broken Land Parkway, and also on Governor Warfield. But the area between Stevens Forest and Snowden, there's some serious problems there. Howard County has not given us the funding to be able to do anything about that issue. We are under contract to perform mowing, landscaping, litter services for Howard County in the median area valued at $98,000, but we have not had that contract renewed, so we may not be doing that either. But we're saying that if it would cost about $38,500 is our estimate to remove dead trees, prune trees, etc. But we don't have the money to just go in and do that, and it is the county's responsibility. So we're trying to make them more aware of where they need to really take on some of this. So we're hoping that'll work out. And the same 20,000 over in Governor Warfield Parkway. Let's see, a stormwater management, again, it's serving Columbia, Ellicott City, Clarksville, and other parts of Howard County with the drainage system. But we've been forced to reduce our capital budget from 15,000 to 8 million. And then we're using that really for safety and health issues, because we do have a lot of aging buildings. So we're not in a position to maintain the county's stormwater management system. They have been very good, to their credit, about working with us about taking over ponds that are in the drainage area. Now we have to bring them up to date, which is considerable expense, but then they're taking them over. So what we're simply saying is not everything, but where it's in the drainage system that benefits Howard County, Chesapeake Bay, et cetera, we just can't afford to be taking care of all of that. Full childcare, if you remember, when everything was closed down, but then it opened up, the county got money for subsidizing childcare. We put CA at a disadvantage because we would charge a higher, the rate, and they were charging a lower rate by subsidizing their childcare. Actually, all of the private sector, profit and nonprofit daycare centers were pretty upset too, because they felt the county was unfairly competing with them. So we're simply asking for some subsidy to people that can't afford the daycare, CA daycare, can't afford it, but we are subsidizing them, and we're losing, it's a loss of approximately $4,200 per week. We're just saying, can we again partner with the county and get some funding to help on this? We're not asking for it forever. We're saying now when we have a crisis, an economic crisis. I think that's enough to give you sort of an example of what Milton has been working with the county and negotiating on. But that's the overall approach that we're trying to use. And I don't know if you have any questions or anything else. Oh, there is one last one, I'm sorry, that I'm concerned about too, is no free events at the Columbia Arts Center. CA cannot afford to provide activities at no charge at the Arts Center, which we feel will impact the vibrancy and usage of the Long Beach Village Center. So we're hoping the county will be concerned in terms of attracting more people to the Long Beach Village Center as they try and improve that. The additional cost to operate free programs is approximately $64,700 per year. And we'll work with them as to exactly what's involved in that. But that's another one where we just can't afford to do some things. And keep in mind, it's people that use the Arts Center and all of them. They're not just people from Columbia. They are people from all over that come to programs there. And that's true of our ponds. That's true of our lakes. That's true of our path systems, et cetera. So it's not strictly, these things aren't strictly for Columbia use. They're serving the Howard County community as well. So we're simply saying, you're getting all that money. We just want a little bit of it. And that's about it.
Ginny,
I'm
sorry.
I wanted to ask, I was looking through that document you emailed with, with Milton's communications, and what does he mean with the youth and teen center, where he says CA will provide very little teen center programming without Howard County partnership funding? Because I thought the youth and teen center was funded to open this summer through the fall for after school programming. So is he saying it would be nice if you chipped in and otherwise we're not going to open it, or what is he trying to say there?
No, and actually it's poorly worded. I'm going to give him a call on that. All right. First of all, some people refer to it as the teen center. It's the youth and teen center. Serves right now. We've been certified to provide daycare for children up to age 12, and when the schools close or before and after school programs, we move them to what you refer to as a teen center. We've been doing that. We'll do more programming over the summer, and the whole program that you've seen in the past will be starting in the fall when the teens go back to school. So that part of it will be fully functional. I don't know what other programming he's talking about there, quite frankly, what other additional program, because we provide a lot. They're in the process of trying to hire 2 part-timers that will assist the full-time person that does the teen center as well as other things. So that's in the process of hiring, because we approved all that in the budget. The facilities there, the computer rooms are there. Now, the teen center does partner with other groups like the schools and like Oakland Mills Local Leadership Team for a career day. I think that's in its 3rd or 4th year, and other groups to provide other services. So that's a benefit actually to everybody. But I don't really quite understand that. The scholarships, yeah, that's one that he's asking for money for. That was known as the Maggie Brown scholarships, or the Spirit of Columbia, where a high school student who's done fantastic work and out in the community, et cetera, would compete for a scholarship of, I think it was a couple of thousand, and we have not been able to afford that last year or this year. But that would be nice to be able to go back to that, but you know, we'll see. So all the other programming, the education, the food, supervision, the use of the computers, all of that, and a safe environment will definitely be guaranteed. We did approve that funding. You're correct.
So did I miss what you said it would be when the school starts, or will there be anything in the summer?
The summer will be more less not programming, but open for get-togethers, et cetera. Some of it
Okay.
will be virtual, as well as I say, the daycare when they're not, it will be available too. And one program will end when the other one starts. As Michelle says, teenagers get up a lot later than the younger kids, so you can do both. So I know it's like, I think there was some rumors that the youth and teen center is being used for office space. Yes, there's the office space consists of the people that program the youth daycare and the staff that will program the teen center. Yes, they need space. They need an office. So that is there. That's true, but it's always been true. So I don't know if that clears it up any, but we're ready to go. The money's there. They're trying to hire the two people. You know anybody that's looking for part-time work? Refer them to Michelle Miller. Sorry, yeah, okay. Anything else? Before the trees fall on you, maybe you can help lobby the county to get the money to remove those trees on the median strip and along Broken Land Parkway, or at least have them pruned, whatever's necessary.
All right, any more questions for Ginny? All right, thanks very much, Ginny.
You're welcome, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to move it to old business now. Hopefully everyone had a chance to read the document I sent in advance of the meeting, but I'll bring it up on the screen. And I apologize for this. As Sandy can clearly attest, because of the number of times I screw up, I'm terrible at calendars, and I kind of lost track of where our meetings fall in relation to the budget cycle. So a week from tonight is the county council hearing on the education part of the capital budget. They always do education separate from the rest of the capital budget. And obviously we have made capital budget statements about the school system in the past, including to the county executive for the fiscal 22 budget cycle. So I'm proposing that we go back in with a very similar message to the county council about the capital neglect of Oakland Mills High and Oakland Mills Middle. We'll start off by thanking them for Talbot Springs, but then point out that we have two other buildings that are basically going in the same direction as Talbot Springs if there's not some intervention. And Bill, I didn't have a chance to do a complete redo, but per comments, can everyone see what I'm sharing, by the way? I should have asked
Yes.
first. Per comment you made in this paragraph where I talk about the 110 million in deferred maintenance on Oakland Mills High, I added a sentence reminding them that this number equates to more than the cost of some entirely new school buildings. It depends on things like land acquisition, size of the building, et cetera, but you can build certain schools for less than the $110 million that's been deferred on a standing building in Oakland Mills. So, like I said, I brought this back as old business since this is just another step in the fiscal 22 budget cycle. With your approval, if you have tweaks to the message, I'm happy to incorporate them. But with your approval, I would like to go ahead and sign up for the April 20th budget hearing and present this as the Oakland Mills Community Association rather than as just me. Any comments or discussion on what I circulated? Bill?
Yes, Jonathan, I'm fine with this for your testimony. Absolutely. Thanks for doing all the groundwork on this. And then my suggestion for, board consideration would be on a going forward basis to determine the range of capital necessary to build a brand new high school, the range of capital to build a brand new middle school, exclude land acquisition because we already have that, and put those ranges in our communications if the capital deferred on each of those two buildings is in the range of a new building. And I think it would be good to begin to advertise that so that at some point we can say, hey, my opinion for board consideration, we want a new middle school, we want a new high school. Wild Lake, the original village on the west side, has a brand new middle school and a brand new high school. We're the first village on the east side. We want equal treatment. We want a brand new middle school. We want a brand new high school. Now, that's my personal opinion. I wanted to bring it up now, and we don't need to discuss or anything, but in the back of our minds, begin thinking about that, because I'm really frustrated that our high school and our middle school have been shown the door, basically, while Wild Lake is sitting with a new high school and a new middle school. What's fair about that treatment, east side, west side? And that is a trend that is shown in many other things in the county. East side is the poor side, west side is the rich side. The majority of the housing complexes that are owned by different organizations or that have financial restrictions on them are on the east side of 29, very little on the west side. And I really got into that on the housing task force. So that's just a thought. It's my personal opinion. I want new schools, okay? As a board member, I will vote for, go along with what the board wants, but that's just a placeholder for future. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks, Bill.
John, I'm in
All right,
total
anything else?
I'm in total agreement with Bill. And thank you. This was very thorough.
Thanks, Rashida. Yeah, and I know I circulated this in the email, but just for everyone else, I have talked to the administrators at both of these schools, and it's very, very interesting. Because Mr. Cosentino at the middle school, I was talking to him outside the school last fall, and he said, "Look at that field over there. We deserve a new school." And I said, "Okay, great." And I think Dr. Fink, I mean, we haven't talked as specifically about new school versus doing the building. I think he's been primarily focused on, he thinks his building is salvageable and a lot can be done to improve it. So, those are also discussions I think we should have with the leadership of the school as well as the school communities to see what they want. I mean, way back when Talbot Springs started as please renovate us, please renovate us, please renovated us, and then just knock us down and rebuild us. We're past renovation. And in my opinion, the school system should learn from that. It probably would have saved them some money had they renovated Talbot Springs on some normal schedule like they've done in other communities, rather than let it degrade to the point where it degraded, where it was literally cheaper. It's going to cost less now. It is costing less now to build that new building next door and tear down the old one than it would have been to salvage that building, which is a shame. I mean, when you consider, how long old historic buildings can stand if they're cared for properly, and we're throwing away 50-year-old school buildings because they haven't been taken care of. So that was my soapbox. So Bill, that was, and Rashida, that was my long roundabout way of saying I agree with you, but it's also a shame. To me, it's a shame that we might be saying we want to knock down buildings that are only 50 years old. But we wouldn't be saying that if those buildings had been taken care of over the past 50 years.
Very true.
All right. I don't know that we necessarily need like a formal motion and vote, since this is basically a continuation of testimony. I'll take one if there is one, but if everyone just wants to nod their head and say, yeah, this is fine, I will finalize it and circulate a final copy via emails, just so you know exactly what's going to be. Well, I shouldn't say exactly what's going to be said, because sometimes I time it and I speak a little differently than what I submit, but you'll see exactly what gets submitted electronically for the record for the council. And sometimes what I say is a slightly abridged version, because I realize I'm not talking as fast as I thought I would talk when the time comes and I get the 5 minutes.
John?
Ginny?
Yeah, I can't see the bottom of this letter, but are we CCing our county executive and the council members and the delegation, because they really should be aware, of the problems, et cetera. But this kind of would reinforce our concerns.
The county executive has received this twice, because I submitted it and spoke it at the December hearing, and then we resubmitted it for was it February, Sandy, that he held the second hearing?
Okay, great.
I think it was February. So he has seen it. This is for council testimony, but if you all want us to, we can send this to the state delegation as an FYI. Here's what the Oakland Mills community is telling our county council. We understand the important role you play in financing school infrastructure. We want to make you aware as well.
Right, to take a leadership role and
Mhm.
help us show us the money, get the money, right?
Yeah, we can certainly do that. I've spoken to members of our delegation about this in the past, so I think it would be a logical follow-up to send them what we're telling the county.
Thanks, John. You're doing a fantastic job on this issue. Thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone. Did I see? I'm sorry, Lynn, your hand was up. Lynn, you're muted.
I'll support what the board wants to do, but I personally don't like the wastefulness in just tearing down a building rather than trying to make it a functional building. So my feelings would be to try to encourage the county and the Board of Education to do what they need to do to make it a good school. It's a shell. They can, lots of stuff can be done to make it a really viable, wonderful building. It doesn't need to be torn down. It's wasteful. It's a needless. It makes me a little sick, actually, to think about just tearing buildings down.
I think one thing we might. I think one thing we may want to do, once the work at Hammond is complete, we might want to take a look at what that was versus what it will be. Because if it can be done there, then maybe something like that can be done at Oakland Mills. I've seen the drawings and I see the construction photos and everything. I'm interested to see what it ends up being in practice, because it does sound to me like they're getting, virtually a new school. So yes, you're absolutely right. The shell of the building, the footprint might be, something that can be retained. I think there would still be basically a lot of, destruction and demolition, because even at Hammond, they destroyed an addition they put on in the 90s to make room for what they're doing now. So while I guess the original Hammond building will still be there, it's my understanding is it's going to be basically unrecognizable. And then some of the things they've added on to it since then are getting knocked down and built differently now. So it'll be an interesting process. Even at Oakland Mills High, for example, I could see them, if they did something like that, going in and saying, oh yeah, we did that addition thing back in 2002, 2003. We need to revisit that. So I think it remains to be seen.
Thank you.
All right. So next on our agenda is also old business. Oh no, that was the only old. That's right, because I had to take the budget stuff off. So now we are into the board chair report. So two quick things. One of which I alerted you to, and one of which I kind of did yesterday, so didn't have a chance to alert you to. I've been in touch with Dr. Fink about the infamous hill at the mill and the generous offer we have for making watershed related improvements to that hill. He has not been successful in getting HCPSS grounds to respond. Basically he's getting put off. We'll get back to you tomorrow. We'll get back to you tomorrow. So I sent him a note and said, would you prefer that the board just, made basically formally said, we don't like the way this looks. We have, we have an organization willing to work with the school system. We want you to take this seriously, meet with this organization and do something to improve this hill. And he said, yes, if you're willing to do that, that may be better, because, he's just getting the runaround, and there's only so much he can do because these are his employers. So again, this is one of those things we've discussed several times. I think, everyone who's been here for past meetings has been displeased with the condition. So if it's okay with all of you, I'll do exactly what I said in the email. I'll put together a correspondence, to HCPSS grounds with copies to the superintendent and the Board of Education, saying basically, this hill has been a neglected eyesore for several years now. We understand what you're trying to accomplish from an environmental perspective. However, what you're doing doesn't really work. We have good people who understand watershed issues who are willing to do something better. They're willing to put together a plan. We need you to sit down and meet with us and meet with them and do something to address this, because it is the gateway to our community and it looks terrible. And it's not accomplishing what it's supposed to accomplish. It's, it looks terrible, and it's not preventing, runoff, erosion, or anything else they're trying to prevent. Any issues, concerns with that? Okay. The other thing I did, I just want to inform you of, because I've talked about doing this before and I've tried it, and I'm trying again. As we're sending this correspondence to the county in budget testimony and in safety correspondence about the streetscape on Stevens Forest Road and the signage at Blandair Park to attract people to our village center, I realize that we can advocate for the village center, but we're not really the large commercial entity in the village center. So I decided, enough is enough. We could probably use a partner in this. So I sent an email to Cedar yesterday, and I'm still awaiting a reply. And basically what I said, I sent this to Dina because she's the best contact I have from a corporate perspective. I said, you have a big portfolio all over the place. Do you have someone in your corporation who basically lobbies local governments, for improvements to help support your centers? Because a lot of larger businesses do this. And I laid out for her, and Sandy and I had talked to Dina about this in the past when she was visiting before COVID. I laid out for her what we've been trying to accomplish, safety improvements at Stevens Forest Road to make the center more accessible to pedestrians and bikers, the streetscape along Stevens Forest Road just to make everything more attractive and maybe even increase the value of the village center. And then of course the signage at Blandair, so that when people drive into Blandair and drive out, they right now they never know the village center is even there unless they know Oakland Mills. And so I basically said, this feels like a win-win for both our community and for Cedar if you do that sort of thing. If you have someone who does that, could you connect him or her with us? I'll be happy to lay out what we're trying to accomplish, what county officials we're trying to get involved to give it some attention. And maybe if it's more than just OMCA saying the village center needs these things, if it's the actual majority owner of the village center, it'll carry a bit more weight. So I just wanted to fill you in on that because it's something I've talked about, doing in the past, and then things like COVID and stuff hit. And now that we've really been back to focusing on things like the budget and the streetscape project, I thought, well, now's as good a time as any to try to get them engaged again, since, if there's one owner, in all that village center property that stands to benefit the most, it's probably Cedar, since they own the bulk of the thing. Ginny?
Hey, John, I love that idea. And you're right, that's the big owner, but would you think about whether The Meeting House might be interested in joining the Whalen property. Now, as you get down to the real small ones, you know, I don't think Sam's Mart or I'm not sure Pizza Man or Little Caesars would be interested, but the Meeting House as always wants to work with us.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they may be very interested, the interfaith committee there. And maybe Whalen, right, Bill? He was very interested in working with the Village Center when you and I met with him, what, 6 years ago? I don't know. It's just an idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should. I'd be happy to do that. I kind of limited myself to Cedar because we've talked about that before, and I didn't want to go beyond what, you know, what the board has talked about before and just start
Right.
willy-nilly contacting people and representing the board. But I'm happy to, you know, expand it beyond Cedar and see who else might be interested in getting more involved, because I really do think we need their help. You know, as important as OMCA is, you know, okay, we're the community association saying this is what the Village Center needs. We don't own it. All these folks own it, so they can really speak to what the needs are and how they want the area around the Village Center to look and function.
I think that's great. Raina, do you think Enterprise might be interested as well? Because, you know, it might, improvements there might help Forest Ridge.
Yes, I think they would. Yeah, because they're doing a lot of new things now. They're getting into communities and a lot of projects, and they're doing a lot of services. So I think this would be something they would be interested in supporting.
Okay, you could have quite a coalition going there.
Yeah.
Because you really want to influence the county, right?
Yeah, I mean, these are all county issues right now, right? Stevens Forest Road is a county road. Blandair is a you know, recreation and parks park. So it really is all county.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about could be very exciting. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, and I am seeing a lot of other things happening. You know, I see a lot of other new businesses being welcomed to the county and everything. And, you know, Oakland Mills businesses kind of come and go, and, you know, there's no fanfare or anything. So I mean, I just think, if maybe our, like I said, the people who own our properties maybe get more involved in it, we might see things happen a bit faster than if it's just us advocating on their behalf without them directly involved in it. All right, that's everything I have, unless anyone has questions for me. If not, I'll pass it off to Ginny.
I have a question that you may want to move till later. The email that you sent out, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, it seems like a lifetime ago at this point, about Venari's being replaced. Oh, it was April 1st, so it was 2 weeks ago, about Venari's being replaced by the pizza restaurant. Can we, you know, I know when the dry cleaners was coming in there that we made a big fuss. It didn't do anything, but can we, I don't know, do something and say, please don't give us another pizza restaurant?
The new place has already taken possession.
Can we write a letter to the new place and say, we don't want you in our community? Is that awful?
I wouldn't support that. I mean, yeah. I don't understand why. I don't understand, you know, why someone wanting to open a pizza place would look at our Village Center and go, what this place needs is another pizza place. But once they're here, I wouldn't be comfortable with making a business feel unwelcome, because it's not really that they're a detriment to the community. It's just more of something we already have.
I mean, they are a detriment. When our Village Center has one Chinese food place and one donut place and 3 pizza places, it is not the hot spot to go to. You know what I mean?
I mean, hey, River Hill has 4 banks.
7 banks. 7.
They have 7?
Mm-hmm. Well, they got a lot of money in River Hill.
We got 3 pizza places. Actually, 4 pizza places.
Yeah, you're right. Underhill, we have 4.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just really, really disappointing. And it just speaks to Cedar Realty's lack of interest in working with us. Lack of, that they don't really want to be part of our community.
Rebecca, you have something against pizza?
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, honestly, in the case of this one, I don't know, because remember, Cedar does not own the other two properties that have pizza places. So, you know, Cedar is basically going for the tenant who's willing to take that space and sign the long-term lease and use it. Cedar's not necessarily interested in what is going on with other commercial property owners. They're out to make money on their property. So,
Well, I guess
well,
that's what I mean is Cedar had no interest in consulting with the neighborhood that their businesses are in.
oh yeah. But I mean, in fairness, does anyone else? I mean, no one, whoever owns what is now Pizza Man, no one came to us and said, hey, we're putting a Pizza Man in there. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what we do about that, because we can't require any of these property owners to come to us and say, this is what I want to put here, other than going through the architectural process. So I don't know that we can necessarily treat Cedar any differently, for the restaurants they bring in versus, what the owner of the Pizza Man lot brought in, or what the owner of the Little Caesars lot brought in.
So maybe instead of trying to change their actions, we need to change our relationship with them and maybe create some kind of meeting, once a quarter, have all of the commercial business owners, have a meeting that we can sit with them, or just one of us, or, like a small contingent of us, so that we can interface with them, so that they're not just, landowners doing as they like, but that they can actually be part of our community. Has that been done before? I mean, I know that you try to talk to Cedar regularly, but
we had previously, Rena was actually part of the meetings. We tried to meet with all of the property owners, and over time that dwindled. And what's a shame is that they're not local property owners. Like Pizza Man, it's a woman's estate, and the daughter lives in Chicago. Cedar is based out of New Jersey and Long Island. So it's tough. I mean, and then when we tried to meet with the individual business owners, have a luncheon with them, they didn't show up. So, I mean, it's not that saying that you don't try again, but
yeah, I mean, pre-COVID, I did try again with the individual business owners, and it didn't get anywhere. Actually, the only one who really expressed interest was the son of the owner of Venari's, of all places, and they're no longer here. With the others, it really just didn't go anywhere. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't try again.
Jonathan?
Yes, Lynn.
Yeah, I was going to say that our problem, I think, compared to other villages, is that in other villages, the village center is owned by one entity. So Kimco owns the village center. So then they can weigh what business goes in and how does it fit with the other businesses that are already there. But with us, there's no incentive. Competition is competition, and they if somebody wants to come in and do a pizza place, and there's already a pizza place that is in the Cedar property, there's nothing that we can say we don't want the competition. We only want a certain number of things. We don't have that sort of power, nor does Cedar. And then to Sandy's point, I remember, that for many years, people tried to get something together with like a small business association to get the merchant.
And signage.
Yeah, signage as well. I mean, we still have signage that doesn't really say what's in our village center, and it certainly isn't something that that promotes the businesses that are in the village center. But you've got Cedar with theirs, and then you have the other independent ones. So it's a hard nut to crack. I mean, I agree. I would love it if we as a community had more influence over what goes into our village center, but it's not for lack of trying. Doesn't mean we can't continue to try.
Anything else? I'm happy to try again and keep trying.
Yeah, they were gonna actually, Cedar had submitted plans for nice signage, and then COVID hit, and then now they're saying they just don't have the money to do the signage. So we have frustrations. Just as another, well, I mean, second chance that we're still waiting for word on that. Not for lack of asking what's going to happen.
It'll be another pizza place.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, a New Jersey pizza place, because we're
To compete with the New York pizza.
Chicago pizza.
Yeah, we don't have Chicago pizza yet.
Right.
Chicago pizza. What is the story on the second chance? I mean, before it falls apart.
We are pursuing all that is not right to the best of our ability. But you know, like any other property owner.
We have bifurcated. I am no longer talking to the leasing people about the condition of the building. We are pursuing the covenant with the property manager. I'm staying in touch with the leasing about, is anyone going to move into this building? Because that way they also can't divide and conquer us, right? They can't keep saying, well, we're waiting to see who takes the building before we do anything about the mess. No, I don't want to talk to you about the mess. I want to talk to you about who's coming to the building. You can talk to our covenant advisors about the mess you have there.
Well, you know, if you don't do that, wouldn't you have a problem possibly that'll impact negatively on the other businesses with rats and what? I mean, when you and I walked that, Jonathan, there were holes in the building, and
well,
so thank you covenant people for
as I've said, I think I've said this to Lynn and Sandy, you know, when they were initially saying, well, we don't want to make any changes to the building till we see who the new tenant is. I highly doubt that there's any tenant who's looking at that building who's going to come back and say, you know what, I don't want that building anymore because you filled a giant hole in the side of the wall. So, you know, I have to call BS on some of that, which is why we've just decided I'm not going to talk to the people, you know, in charge of leasing about the condition of the building. We're just going to now follow our process to wherever that process leads. All right.
Maybe come late summer when people are more willing to meet in person again, I'll bring it back up and we can try to send invitations out and
Sure.
get them together.
That sounds good.
Yeah, but you know, like I said, I mean, I think, you know, once a business is here, I mean, I do think we do have to be careful about then saying, we don't want you here, because I mean, technically, once a business sets up shop here, they're members of our community association. So, you know, once they're here, we'd effectively be saying to a member of our association, we don't want you here. So
that's that. I didn't really mean telling them I didn't want them here.
Yeah, but I mean that's the fine line. That's why I was saying, well, once they take possession, we're kind of stuck. Like that's where it's hard for us to say very much.
They won't tell us who's coming in advance. They will say we have a lease signed with this business. Even if we have in the past given them suggestions, they never will lay their cards out until that lease is signed. So that's tough.
Yeah, they keep it extremely close to the vest.
I did talk with some people outside the laundromat the other day. They said they're loving it.
Oh, good. I've seen people
the
going
laundromat
back
is
and forth.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Ginny and I took a tour of the laundromat over the winter, and I cannot believe what they invested in that place. I mean, I wasn't expecting, like, you know, actual ceramic tile everywhere and all this other stuff. I'm really impressed with that.
Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Rena, are residents from Forest Ridge using the laundromat instead of the laundry room?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Our people, it's MBM, they're losing significant amount of money. Oh my gosh. I can almost just give it to them out of my purse what they're getting. Yeah, they're losing a lot of money.
Well, good for the laundromat.
Yeah. Yeah.
They got to compete now, your company.
Right, exactly.
All right, Ginny and Rebecca. No, I didn't think you literally meant, yeah, let's walk into NYC Pizza and say we don't want you here. No, but that's why I was saying, well, they've already taken possession of the building. I mean, if it was pre then yeah, I could see saying something. But like once they're here, they're our members, and unfortunately, that's the way Cedar times things. They send me a note on April Fool's Day of all day saying, "Yep, they're taking possession of the building and starting renovations. They'll be open in June or July." And I went to Cedar's website, and sure enough, if you pull up the map of our center, it's already updated to reflect that business being in that slot in the center. All right, Ginny.
Okay, well, I covered quite a bit already. Just a quick update on the lifeguard issues. What I didn't realize was one of the other problems was trying to get managers for the pools. And we've succeeded now in getting that. And lifeguards were very close to the number we need for the 15 outdoor pools. Revenue, I at least still have a concern about whether our revenue projections will hold or will go down. That's my biggest concern for this budget, because people are appealing both the commercial and at the residential level, their assessments. And so you have to wait until a decision is made as to whether or not CA will actually get the income that it's expecting. And, you just said, Sandy, about Cedar saying, well, we don't have the money to do certain things because of what happened. So that's a concern. That's about it. Thank you. Unless somebody has any questions.
Any questions for Ginny?
They want follow up on.
No.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Sandy, you're up.
Okay, I sent that lengthy letter, and thanks to Warren and his committee for the video and the wording, to the chief of the Department of Highways within Public Works, Chris Jagarapu, and I haven't gotten anything back. I copied Councilman Jones' office, sent the video, and sent the streetscape that they had presented in 2014. So that was last week. So I will follow up. I always follow up about a week and a half later, making sure they got what I received. So I will keep you updated. As you all know, the election mailing went out today. Wild Lake told Bob Roulette they had about 140 ballots that had come in. So he's going to retrieve them and start validating the envelopes on the property list. People have been calling me if they didn't receive a newsletter, and I've put it in the mail and keep a list of who's calling me, and that's beyond our control. It's the post office control. As I mentioned at the forum on the 24th, Amy will be, I didn't say Amy, but I think she'll be at the other barn. We'll have our locked election box in the outer lobby. People can come in with their ballot in their envelope and put it in. There won't be any voting or ballots given out that day. It's just to drop it. If someone didn't want the mail to get delayed or they forgot to vote, they can come and drop it off. Contacted the people who volunteered to count. They'll get their instructions in the mail. Bob Roulette has everything he needs to go forward to election day. And I think that's it for that. If anyone didn't get a ballot, I put a message on the phone machine, and I put a message on the door of the other barn, how to reach me if they don't get a ballot in the mail. So that's that. Work on the budget. CA did a humongous electrical upgrade to the loft, which is really good because just plugging in a coffee pot could melt an extension cord in past years. I went there yesterday to meet with our new bookkeeper, and like the lights are on and the alarm's not on. And I looked in the courtyard, and they put in the biggest hole and a whole new transformer. And I've asked them to explain what they did, and no one has yet explained, but I will talk to Tim, the electrician, because I just think they totally put in a whole new panel for the upstairs. So I think the building will be much, much safer. And now I just have to ask Open Space to build a nice little fence around it so our brides don't have a big electrical panel in the back of their shot. So that's what it's up against the wall. They can do a nice little fence that BGE can access, but it's in the courtyard against the back wall of the building. So I do have to ask them to fence it in, and maybe that's in their plan, but I think it'll be a very safe upgrade. And that's it. Tomorrow,
Sandy, I pick up the ballots. I did pick up the ballots this afternoon, the 130 plus, and we're beginning to do alpha on the streets.
You're beginning to do what?
Alpha. You know, the sort alphabetically on the street.
Oh,
names.
right. Thank you. Thank Bob Burlett. He's doing the first 250 shift of ballot validating, and then he will pass the torch on to Barb Bartolo. So, Thank you, Bob.
We're good.
I didn't know who you were. I just see a phone number there.
I couldn't Zoom.
Well, you are here, so that's good. Thank you.
I'm audio. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
All right. Any questions for Sandy? All right. Lynn, anything architecture related?
You're
Lynn?
muted.
No, I don't have anything today.
Well, this feels strange. I thought this was going to be like a marathon meeting, and
But you took all the things off the agenda.
but the agenda still has us going till 9:45, and it's only 9:13.
You can keep talking.
It's okay, Jonathan. It's let us leave early.
I think this is.
The
I think
new
this is good.
agenda, John, says 9:10. I'm sorry, we're 3 minutes.
Oh,
late.
shoot. You know what? I have too many screens open. I had the email up instead of the new agenda.
We're late. We're 3 minutes over.
Well, 3 minutes over isn't bad for us. Let's do the bulletin board. Amy, you have anything from the front office? All right. Sandy, anything?
No more.
Ginny? Rebecca?
I think I talked enough.
Rena?
No.
Rashida? Lynn?
No.
Bill?
Nope.
All right. All I have is just a reminder to everyone that we're going to do that special budget session at 7 o'clock on the 21st, which is next Wednesday. It does have to be an open meeting, so we will give our residents an opportunity to speak out as we do at any open meeting. And then the whole agenda will just be the different aspects of the budget we hope to get through. And hopefully Sandy will get adequate information from CA tomorrow that we can make some good decisions in that focus session, and then use our last meeting on the 27th to wrap up any loose ends. So I appreciate all of your flexibility in throwing another session in there, and we'll try to make it as quick and efficient as possible by getting information out to everyone as we have it, so that if you have the time to read through things, we're all ready to discuss that Wednesday night rather than rehashing a bunch of old numbers and things like that once we hear from CA. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. And we are adjourning. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Everybody, good night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.